Hey, how are you? I'm SliceofOtaku, and I want to talk to you about the Corrupted Quartz Gems we've seen thus far in Steven Universe. And we know them to be Quartz Gems thanks to Jasper's observation in the episode Earthlings. I've decided to group them all together purposely, as they themselves are never too far from one another on screen, and although their colorations vary, they all have virtually the same silhouette with only minor differences. You could say Jasper's intentions of having them be her army is partially responsible for this, but even when we initially see the blue and the brown corrupted quartz in the episode Gem Hunt, they're accompanying one another by choice. And if you've seen my video on the Heaven and Earth beetles, then you've probably come to the realization that corrupted gems are not as mindless and stupid as some would expect them to be. Connie and Steven deciding to split up and track one monster as Pearl tracks the other is the general premise of Gem Hunt, but if you realize, when the corrupted gems are first encountered, they can actually be seen communicating with one another. They themselves decide to split up in an effort to lose Jasper, a far more threatening hunter. For such animalistic creatures, this is a pretty on-point assessment for them to make. To distinguish the potential threat levels of all these unfamiliar entities and devise a tactical maneuver in order to avoid confrontation from the most dangerous of them, that's just incredible. This may actually reflect their prior involvement on the planet in the first place as Quartz soldiers in the War for Earth. I really wouldn't be surprised to learn that these gems knew one another prior to corruption, considering Centipeetle's familiarity and devotion to her crew remained intact enough for her to seek them out. The temperament of these creatures is also rather peculiar amongst corrupted gems. Despite their hulking exterior, they're actually rather fearful beings. They're not confrontational in any regard, and in every instance we see them in, they have the intention of running away. This may also allude to their past prior to corruption. Currently, we don't really know if any of these monsters were ever crystal gems in particular, but had they been Quartz soldiers tasked with fighting in the War for Earth by Homeworld, this non-confrontational nature could reflect their low morale fighting in such a war, a gem war, being instructed to destroy their own kind. When Steven attempted to soothe one of these creatures and calm it down, despite Connie believing it to not be working, to me, it seems like it was. It was only when Connie showed signs of hostility by partially unsheathing her sword that the creature became aggressive once more. These gems don't want to be hurt anymore. They've suffered enough and are in constant fear because of this. Now, earlier in the video, I quickly noted the slight variations in appearance amongst these gems, which goes to show that despite all falling into the category of quartz, they are each a different kind of quartz. Centipeetle and her crew all belong to the same type of gem and as such are virtually identical, which is obviously not the case here. In terms of uncorrupted quartz gems thus far, we've seen rose quartz, amethyst, jasper, and carnelian. The two monsters we initially see in Gem Hunt both have pretty cool looking gemstones with hexagonal shapes rather than circular ones, and even have patterns on them, a feature we've yet to see on any other gems thus far. During New York Comic Con 2016, these two gems along with the other similar looking corrupted gems were confirmed to be different types of jaspers. This to me, for the most part, supports my belief that the blue monster is an ocean jasper, as a similar pattern is the highlight of that particular gem's appearance. Now, even though all of these gems were said to be different types of jaspers, I still feel as though the individual identities of the rest are still pretty ambiguous, considering in terms of Steven Universe lore, amethysts and jaspers are considered very similar to the point where they're practically the same sort of gem, simply made under different circumstances. And of the corrupted quartz gems we've seen thus far, only one of them appears to likely be an amethyst. And to me, all of this just furthers our perception of how large scale this war was, how many different types of quartz were incorporated, and even just how vast the diversity of the gem species actually is. We know from Paradox's explanation of kindergartening that just like real estate, location is everything. The location in which a gem is produced, for the most part, dictates the sort of gem that will emerge. Currently, we only know of two kindergarten locations on Earth, Prime and Beta. Do any of the corrupted quartz gems actually originate from Earth? Who knows, but regardless, we do know that Rose was also created on Earth in an undisclosed location, so more kindergartens located on the planet are entirely possible, but really with how little of Earth's colonization plan was actually fulfilled, I wouldn't expect too much. Also, just to clarify, it doesn't seem like the pattern on the gems of the two monsters is due to corruption. As seen in the case of Jasper, corruption doesn't actually alter the physical appearance of a gemstone itself, but rather the projection of that gem. Now, of these corrupted quartz gems, currently only one has been confirmed to have been bubbled. The reason we came in contact with the initial two in the first place was in order to bubble them, but as of Earthlings, many of these gems have run off free. Considering their capacity for communication amongst one another, I'd love to see how they may now coexist, and truthfully, when it comes to corrupted gems that remain docile unless startled, I question if they need to be bubbled at all or just dealt with in another way entirely. At this point, corrupted gems are clearly not all the same, so maybe the approach to taming them also shouldn't be the same across the board. But I suppose at this point the crystal gems have become creatures of habit themselves and don't question these sorts of things as much as we may. But hey, I for one would be open to a bit of change. But anyways guys, that about does it for our discussion when it comes to these corrupted quartz gems, and overall, I think this group of gems is really fascinating and I'd love to see them be utilized again at some point. But I guess that's all a given considering how much I love the concept of corruption as a whole. But regardless, let me know what you think about these gems in the comments, and if there's something else in Steven Universe you'd like to see me break down and explain, let me know. If you liked the video and this is the sort of content you want more of, make sure you stick around with me. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.